Later this week, I talked with Robert Sprague, the Republican former city auditor and treasurer of Findlay, then state representative, and now current state treasurer.
First of all, we'd like to continue the work that we've done already in the office, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I think it's tremendously important, and we're not done. When we came in, I wanted to be a good steward of taxpayer dollars. I wanted to be a wise investor in the future of Ohio, and I wanted to be a bold innovator for the people of the state of Ohio. And we have several projects that right now are in process that involve all of those things. One of the most notable is our Results Ohio project. Because quite frankly, we need new ways of figuring out how to launch projects in the state of Ohio that actually work. And this is going to help save us money in the long term. It's going to protect taxpayers. But maybe most importantly is we're going to be able to develop some new solutions that make a difference in people's lives. And our first project on that is Vision to Learn down in Appalachia, Ohio. It helps Appalachian kids in multiple counties down in Appalachia be able to get eyeglasses from a mobile eyeglass clinic for the first time. And so you have kids that are 10, 11, 12 years old that are getting eyeglasses for the very first time because the financial incentives are aligned through the Results Ohio project. So that's something that we're looking forward to continuing.
One of the things that you did discontinue was the state's Bitcoin acceptance program. Any plans to bring that back?
No.
Why?
I think it's just, well, you've seen the volatility recently of cryptocurrency. I think 3 years ago, some people thought that it was crazy for us to step away from the cryptocurrency. My thought on it was I wanted to only accept for the settlements of the state's debts, US dollars, hard currency, because I knew that I could count on those. And also I didn't want anybody, I never wanted a taxpayer to be shortchanged. So if they paid, for instance, through this cryptocurrency portal, there was always a chance that if bad things happened and the vendor imploded, that they would lose their money and they'd have to pay again. And I didn't want that to happen to anybody in the state of Ohio. And frankly, I'm glad that we're not on the bleeding edge of that because, over this last summer, as the monetary supply has contracted, the cryptocurrency craze has kind of imploded. And it's a good thing for the Treasury of the state not to be on the bleeding edge of that.
We've covered concerns by retired teachers about the state teachers' retirement system on this show, and your Democratic opponent says he'll look at the Treasurer's designated appointments to the 5 pension boards and initiate a comprehensive compensation study. Are you at all concerned about the 5 pension funds? Are there any plans that you have to deal with any of your concerns about those pension funds?
Well, through the Ohio Revised Code, the role of the treasurer is spelled out. You are the custodian, which means that essentially if they buy a security, your job is to make sure that they have possession of that security and make sure that the money transferred correctly. It specifically says in the Ohio Revised Code that the treasurer shall not make investment decisions for any of the pension systems. And so our role as custodians is to make sure that the money is there for the pensioners and make sure all the trades are executed correctly. We're kind of the fiduciary, if you will, to make sure that everything, the money is actually there and the securities are actually there. And our trust department does a fabulous job of that. But by necessity, it means that I have to, as the treasurer, stay out of the investment decisions. And what I've told all of my appointees to the pension systems is that they will never get a call from me asking them to do something for a political purpose or some other investing priority. I said, all I want for you to do as my appointee to the pension system is to make sure that that pension is there for when people retire. Right? You are an investment authority, and by the way, we've appointed some phenomenal people to these boards that are very qualified in investments and understand private equity and asset management and their fiduciary responsibilities. I said the only job that you have to do is to protect that pension of the pensioner to make sure those assets are there when they retire. And I know that every one of my appointees is doing a good job of that, and they're fulfilling their role.
And speaking on that general idea of investment strategies, you've spoken out against what you call radical ESG-focused investment strategies. You're talking about environmental, social, and governance projects that their supporters say encourage companies to act responsibly. But there's also BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions, which are designed to pressure Israel into ending what the supporters of BDS policy say is an occupation of Palestine. I'm wondering if you're into those statements about those specific policies. Are you potentially influencing what kind of investments the state gets into? Are you turning away potential financial tools that could be good for the state?
Let me first of all say that when I say those things, that we have prohibited ESG and the investment of the state treasurer's portfolio, not the pension funds, because
right, yes.
I don't have control over them. We just went through that. But yes, we've made sure that the assets of the people of the state of Ohio in the treasurer's office will never be invested with ESG criteria. And here's the reason for that. Because if you want to take a political stand, and that's what these things are, you're taking a political stand on the environment, you're taking a political stand on a social issue, or you're taking a political stand on a governance issue. Right? You want to take a political stand, you don't do it with taxpayer money. All right? Because with taxpayer money, we've always invested and we will continue to invest only based on 3 criteria. Not environmental, social, and governments. It's going to be return of principal, rate of return, and the liquidity needs of the people of the state of Ohio, and for us to fulfill our financial obligations for the state. That served us well in the past, and that's the only criteria that I'm willing to invest on.
So by taking a stand against ESG-focused strategies or the BDS situation, you're not taking an ideological stand?
Not at all. I mean, what we're saying is that we have a fiduciary responsibility in the treasurer's office to make sure that the return of the capital is there for the people of the state of Ohio, and that they get the highest return out there that's available. It is not my job to take the state's $28 billion portfolio and enact my political priorities for political gain. I just don't I don't view my job that way. And let me tell you about this anti-BDS movement, right? What that ultimately is about is it's about trying to choke off capital to the state of Israel. And it's being done by people, and I think that this is a better term for it than anti-Semitism. It's being done by people that hate Jews. And it's wrong, all right? In our office, we invest in Israel bonds. We invest in Israel bonds because it's good for our portfolio. They have a great liquidity premium to them. We're able to invest out long term. It helps with the duration of our portfolio and all these economic reasons. And we're not going to divest them based upon some pressure from people overseas or domestically for some social agenda. So I reject that. I think it's bad public policy, and it's not what our government should be doing.
You've tweeted some criticisms of President Biden for a student loan forgiveness plan and also about inflation. And I'm wondering, is inflation something that a state treasurer can do anything about? What are your plans to fight inflation?
Right. Well, I'll tell you what. It's interesting. I think, first of all, we need to talk about why is inflation here in the United States? Why is it here worldwide? And one of the reasons is because of the policies that people and Democrats have chosen in Washington, D.C. Right? They've chosen an energy policy that's tried to destroy domestic energy production in the United States. That's caused the price of our energy to go up. And the second thing is they printed an enormous amount of money over the last 3 years for all the social programs that they've funded, including the student loan forgiveness. And when you spend money that you don't have as a government, you print it. And when you print more money, the value of the money goes down. And so it's just that simple. That's why we have this massive runaway inflation. And I will also say that as I talk to people around the state of Ohio, and we began talking with people a year ago about this inflation, and it hurts everybody. It hurts families, it hurts small businesses. And one of the small businesses that it really hurts in Ohio are our farmers. And I remember having a conversation up in Wood County almost a year ago now. And the farmer said, he said, the cost of Roundup for me has gone from $11 a gallon to $74 a gallon, from 11 to 74. And so the same is true of the cost of nitrogen. The nitrogen has almost tripled. The cost of diesel obviously has doubled, and so the cost of the harvest now costs twice as much. And so one of the things that we can do in the state treasurer's office, even though I can't solve the big problem of inflation, we can at least enact some innovative programs to use our balance sheet to help farmers fight back against inflation through our modified ag-link program. And we've kind of reconfigured this tool to make it an inflation fighting tool. We've expanded the loan cap to $500,000, which is going to be incredibly helpful for farmers so that even though the cost of all their inputs are going up over the next year, hopefully the cost of their loans and the interest rate on their loans that they're going to pay is actually going to go down as a part of our balance sheet. We're able to leverage our balance sheet to help them lower their interest rate anywhere from 0.5% up to 3%. So that's one way that we can help fight back in inflation here in the state of Ohio.
The issue of abortion may not seem to have any connection to the state treasurer's office, but it's certainly a campaign issue for Democrats anyway. In my interview with your opponent, Scott Schertzer, he said the issue of choice is the thing he's most asked about when he's out campaigning. What are your thoughts? Does this issue have anything to do with the treasurer's office?
Well, I think, in general as a society, we've got to change the conversation from having abortions to how do we help the children that are already born. And one of the things that we've done on that front in the state treasurer's office is last November we launched a brand new program called Family Forward. And it's actually helping families with the cost of adoption here in the state of Ohio. We had somebody come to us and say, hey, look, I've adopted 2 children. The cost of adopting a child for us was between $40,000 to $50,000 a child, which I thought was just crazy. I don't know how people are able to afford that. And I said, well, what about the state tax credit? What about the federal tax credit? He's like, look, he said, that might come through in 2 years, okay, but I had to pay out of my pocket for the lawyer, I had to pay out of my pocket for the home visit, for the adoption agency expenses, all these other things. So we created a new program that if you get a loan to adopt a child in the state of Ohio, we're going to help lower the interest rate to get you through to that state and federal tax credit. So we're very